Now in this tutorial we're going to touch on what I've come to call the rodeo technique. I really like the rodeo technique because it allows me to hold my ground, and sometimes visually it's a little bit more dynamic. And the reason I call it the rodeo, because it almost looks like you're working a lariat or a lasso. So the way that I generally do my rodeo style is, as I mentioned in another tutorial, I hook my left line onto my left ring finger, and I hook my right line onto my right thumb. In this case, if you don't plan on switching to two hands in midair, you can actually just lark's head them onto your fingers. But again, because I change from one hand to two hands regularly, I generally keep them open. But the key here is that while we have the lines in this position, I can turn the kite left or I can turn it right. Left or right, okay? Now the other thing that the rodeo technique allows me to do is to actually use this hand to create more pressure in the line and move it around my body instead of having to generate everything from my actual foot movement. So we'll just give you a brief sample of that. So again, the two lines separated on the one hand, and it's very important that they are equal in relation to your fist. Okay, it doesn't matter where the kite is. The key is that if these are not equal to the driving fist of the rodeo, then you will be turning in that direction. So, hands even in relation to my fist, and even as I fly around in the rodeo, here we go, you'll see that I have still the ability to steer using that one hand. Now every time I go anti-clockwise, I put in a twist that way, and every time I go this way, I'm putting in a twist as well. So it'll kind of benefit you to learn how to change directions. So to that end, let's go ahead and set this up for a true first attempt. So the kite will be sitting in front of you. And I think to get the first feel of it, what we'll do is actually just fly it like we would normally, but through the rodeo grip. So once more, it's usually just about 40% of the way up the lines, okay, 35 to 40%. Depending on your arm span, you can start to play some very interesting games with how close or far that kite is from you. But again, what I'm going to do is basically lift and drive with the rodeo, but I'm going to walk it around in the 360, just like we learned in the beginner tutorials. There it is. So my left hand is low, and I'm still doing a little bit of steering by alternating these two fingers. Now that gets pretty dizzy, and that's one of the reasons I also like the rodeo, because you can get a lot of action without spinning around all day. So for the next step, I think the key is probably just to experiment with basic turning. So here we go. We're going to launch. We'll go around. Okay. But now I'm going to use my thumb or my right line to turn the kite. But you'll notice that I'm also keeping power. So here we go. We're going to use our ring finger to turn. Okay. So what we're looking for, really, when you make those turns, is a steadiness of tension, and perhaps even a very slight increase of line tension while you're making the upward turn. So here we go. So we're going one way, and you'll notice a little added draw to turn the kite around. And once more, added draw. Here it goes. So for the rodeo, the short lines are exceedingly important because a lot of times when you're going around at that velocity, the kite could actually hit the ground. But what I run on these are 7-foot lines, and so you can see what happens here. At my natural, I'm not overextending my arms, but I'm able to actually keep the kite off the ground. So the really cool stuff comes in when you start going underneath. And so one of the things though is that when you first start to learn this, I really encourage you not to overdrive it. You're better off staying a little bit on the low side of your power and then figuring out how much you need, because obviously if you come slamming down like that, that is one of the most brutal things you could do to your indoor kite indoors, right? So here we go. I'm getting my circle. There we go. It goes under, and I'm still steering a little bit with my fingers. And there's no simple way to explain that except that there's small movements, and it's best to just experiment. So back and forth. And then you can actually throw in like a little bit of a pancake. Right there. Pancake out. and big finish, and then maybe throw in a little dough roll and catch for good measure. So we'll cover a more advanced expose on the rodeo at another time, but I wanted to explain at least the principles of how I'm implementing my control and how we're driving the center of the line. So thank you very much again, and we'll see you in the next tutorial.